Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're finally going to be doing the long-awaited video on how to make this adorable little grape bag to go with your mini cow. The yarn that you will need that I will be using today is this purple Sweet Snuggles light yarn from Michaels. This is a weight 5 bulky yarn, but it's the same purple that I used to make all of the accents and stuff on the cow. And then also you're going to need a little green color. This is from Baby Bee at Hobby Lobby, and I think this one is a weight 4 velvet yarn. You will also need a 6mm hook. One thing to note is if you did use a different size hook for the cow, then use whatever hook that you used to make your cow to make the bag so that everything turns out proportionate. So starting with our purple color, we're going to make a slip knot and chain 6. Again, this is how I make my slip knots. I just fold over so that the yarn is making this loop here. Insert my hook into that loop while holding that crosshair, yarn over and pull through that loop, and then yarn over and just pull through that loop again, release everything and pull on the tail to tighten. Now we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to slip stitch into our first chain right here. So take our hook, go into that first chain, pull up some yarn and pull that yarn through the loop on your hook. Now we have this circle here. Next we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Then we're going to place 3 half double crochets at the base of that chain 2 in the same stitch. So yarn over, go into that same stitch where you made your chain 2, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And do that 2 more times for a total of 3 half double crochets in the same stitch. Here's number 2 and here is number 3. That chain 2 did count as one of our half double crochets, so now we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. So now we're going to take our hook out, go back into that second stitch of your chain 2, grab that loop again and pull that through the chain 2, which will create this popcorn stitch. Now you just want to push that popcorn stitch out so that the bubble is facing outward. And that's your first little grape. Now chain 1, skip our next chain, which is right here, and into the next chain, this one. So we have this chain right here, we're going to skip that one. We're going to go into our next chain and place 4 half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 half double crochets. Take our hook out, go to the first right in there, take your hook, pull it through. So we have our popcorn stitch and just push it out so that the bubble is facing outwards. Now there we have our second grape. Again, chain 1, skip your next chain, which is right here, and into the next one, again, place 4 half double crochets. 1, 2, 4. Again, take your hook out, go back into the top of that first half double crochet, grab your loop, and pull it through. And again, just push that bubble out. So now we have 3 grapes here. So this is what our project looks like so far. We are going to chain 1 again. And then we're going to go into that first grape and just make a slip stitch. We're going to slip stitch into the space where we made that chain 2 to start our first grape, which is right here. And you see how there's a little bit of a space there before we did our half double crochets. We're just going to use that space to do our slip stitch. So pull up a loop and pull through the loop on your hook. So here we are with our 3 grapes. Next, chain 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to place a popcorn stitch between our first and our second grape. This is our first grape, that's our second one, and we have this chain 1 space in between those 2 grapes. So we're going to yarn over and place 3 half double crochets in here, again because that chain 2 that we made counts as a half double crochet. So there's 2, and we are just going into that space again, and there's 3. So we have 4, which is this chain 2, and then 1 half double crochet here, 1 here, and 1 here. Go into the top of the chain 2 space, take that loop and pull it through. Again, we do want to push this out just a little bit to the other side. Now what we're going to do is just go in between the second and the third grape into that chain 1 space and make a slip stitch. So we're pulling up a yarn and slip stitching. Now we will just chain 1, cut our yarn, and pull that yarn through and tighten that loop. So now we have a project that kind of looks like it's a mess, but we will trust the process and it will all come together. So the first thing that we want to do is hide this tail that we just made at the end of our project, but we're going to do it in a very specific way so we can bring this last grape more central to all 3 of these grapes. I will show you what I mean. So first, take your tapestry needle and thread the tail through. And now we see how we have this open space kind of right here, and we just want to close that off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just go into the space that I can find here and a space that I can find here and pull that tail through both of those spaces. It's not an exact science, but again, you just want to kind of close up that hole so that it looks more uniform and central in the middle of those 3 grapes. You don't have to do this too much, just enough to where you feel like it's closed. Right now it looks like it, so I'm just going to do 1 more. I'm just going to put that through just this spot over here and pull that tail through. So now it's looking much better to me. So I'm just going to fasten this off and hide it again. So I'm going to make a loop so that I can tie it off, knot it off. So I'm just going to knot it off there so it doesn't undo any of that work we just did. And now I'm just going to hide it as best as I can and then just cut that tail. The next thing that we need to do is make the outer foliage of the grapes. It can be kind of hard to tell where the top of your grapes are at, where you first started. So what I like to do is just leave our first tail without hiding it so that I can find my way to the start of where I'm going to put my foliage. So I'm going to leave this tail here for now until we add the foliage, and then I'm going to hide it. So here's the top of our grapes. Now we're going to grab our green color and we're going to attach it where our tail is. So go into that space just right next to your tail where your project was started. Again, it's not an exact science, so if you're not exactly right next to your tail, you just want one of these spaces in between your top 3 grapes. Yarn over your yarn and attach it to your grape by pulling up a loop, yarn over and pull through. So now we have our green attached to our grape. Now chain 2, 1, 2, slip stitch back into the base of that chain 2. So go in, pull up some yarn, and pull that yarn through the loop that's on your hook. Now chain 1, and repeat that in our next space right here between the grapes. So go into that space between the grapes, pull up some yarn, and pull that yarn through the loop that's on your hook. So attach it by slip stitching. Then we're going to chain 2 again, 1 and 2, go back in, pull up some yarn and slip stitch, loop that's on your hook, chain 1, and one more time. We have one more space, so we're going to go right in here, place a slip stitch right into that last space, slip stitch, chain 2, 1 and 2, right back into the base and slip stitch one more time and chain 1. Now we're back at our start here. We're back at where we started our first foliage. So we're just going to go right in there and make one more slip stitch so that it's all uniform throughout. Now we can cut our yarn and pull that through to tighten and fasten it off. Alright, so there's our foliage, and I do like to tie these two tails together, one from where we started the foliage and the other from where we ended it. So I'm just going to tie these two together just for some extra strength and security. So we've got one knot, and now just go ahead and hide your tails. I wouldn't advise just cutting them right here. You can if you want to, but I don't think that would be the best, especially with this velvet yarn, because those knots just love to come undone if you cut too close to them, and you don't want that to happen because you don't want your stuff to fall apart after you just put all that work into it. So now we can hide this purple tail and then just hide it like you hid the other one. Alrighty, so there is our little grape bag. Now we just need to add the strap. So go ahead and grab your little cow, figure out how you want this positioned, if you want to see this side, if you want to see that side, that side. I like this side personally, so I want it positioned like that. So this will be the front of my bag. Go back to your purple color and measure out the yarn that you would need to wrap around his body, and leave just a little bit for sewing. So we need about that much, and I'm gonna leave a little bit for sewing and attaching to the bag. So here's his strap. I'm gonna take it back off of him right now. Grab your tapestry needle and put it through one end, and again I want this to be the front of my bag, so I want to sew one side by attaching it right here and going through the middle of our stems. Again, we only have a little bit of room to work with to fasten our tails off, so don't pull this through too much or it won't fit around your cow. So there's one side, so I'm going to take that tapestry out of that side. Going to go to the other side of our strap and attach it to our tapestry needle. And again, this is the front of my bag, so I'm going to go to the other side, which would be right around here. Go through the foliage, underneath the foliage, and back through the middle to meet that other strap. And pull out your tapestry needle. Don't tie anything yet, because what we're gonna do is put that around our cow. So you can play with it a little bit, pull it up so that you can attach it to your cow. I always go from the bottom because it's just easier than having to go through all of his head and his ears and stuff. So there we have it. Okay. Now we need to tie it so that it's how we want it, so it's not so loose. So just pull up both of your sides here until you have it adjusted to where you want it. And it looks like this strap is just a little bit too close to the front, and I want to pull it back a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is just take out this side and redo that so that it's through this side instead of so close to the front like that. Okay, so I want it right here. So I'm gonna go right through that and back through the middle again so that it's closer to his body. There we go, much better. So again, just pull on your tails here until it is snugly fitted around his body, just like that. And now once you like the placement and everything, tie the tails together into a knot. Here's my second. And for good measure, I will do just one more. So now it is attached to him, so now we're just going to go ahead and hide these two tails. You don't necessarily have to thread them through because there is some space inside of that bag, so if you just want to shove them into the bag, then that also works as well to hide them. And then just adjust and fiddle with it a little bit to how you want it to look and present itself. All right, and there we have our cute little grape bag to go along with our mini cow. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you try it, definitely let me know. Leave a comment in the comment box below. I would love to see them, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.